Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology. What's that? That's the study of books and reading and notebooks and writing mixed with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. Here, you'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how they can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebooking prompts around particular themes, and you'll even hear from authors and special guests who can fuel our reading and writing hearts and help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host and friendly bookologist, here with another episode celebrating the power of reading and writing to make life better. If you're listening to this episode in real time, then it is summer. For some of us, summer has already been in full swing, but for others, like me here in upstate New York, it finally feels like we're getting started. Regardless of where you are in your summer journey, I hope that you have filled it with whatever you wanted and needed it to be. And if you're listening to this podcast, then you've likely been trying to fill those summer days with a little bit of reading, writing, learning, and doing things you love. And the best part is that no matter where you are in your summer season, there is still time to say yes to the kind of summer that you want to have and to treat yourself. Or should I say, retreat yourself? I'm getting a little punny today. So today's guest is perfect to explore this conversation with us, Wendy Harrop. Wendy is the host of the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. She owns a historic bed and breakfast on a small New England flower farm, and she hosts international trips and retreats for those wanting a little adventure. She's here today to talk about how we can say yes to ourselves and create a retreat like experience because, well, we deserve it, no matter when and where we are. So let's get to our conversation. Wendy, welcome to the Get Literate podcast. I'm so glad you're here today.
Stephanie, it is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I have been thinking about something that you've said that I've mentioned to you before that has kind of become a new mantra on multiple sticky notes throughout my house and my car and my notebooks. And I won't get it exactly right, but you have said something along the lines of you are only here, and here meaning in life, you are only here for things that delight you.
I am only available
I
for
am
what delights me,
Yes. Yes, and you had to correct me last time. That I gotta think about why
right?
I
Well,
am saying
because
that wrong.
here, as in this is my existential purpose, can feel bigger than us. But when we decide what I am available for and what I am not available for, that is very intentional. And it brings it so micro into our experience. I, when I first declared that that was my mantra, I was listening to a podcast and the host was talking about creating an ideal client list. She was putting together a new retreat. She wanted to do things differently. And she started just dreaming about these imaginary women that would be joining her. And she thought, oh, this is getting a little audacious, but she kept going and she was encouraging the listener to be audacious as well. And I remembered I was shoveling snow, listening to this podcast in my bliss because I delight in the work of my hands. And I uttered these words: I am only available for what delights me. And then I laughed out loud because it surprised me. I didn't know I was going to say that. And I felt, again, very audacious in thinking, "Ooh, is that allowed? Is that a thing? Can
Yes.
I sustain that?" And I tried it out on somebody else, and they had a similar response. "Ooh, can can you do that? Is that wow, how is that going?" And I just decided that I was going to use that as a filter for everything that filled my days. Now, I am a mother of then a kindergartner. It was the pandemic. I live on a farm. I my days are filled with things that other people might not enjoy doing during the day. One of my chores at the time was cleaning out the chicken coop because I had about 35 birds. And do I like cleaning out the chicken coop? No, I do not. But I loved having chickens. So I know that there are responsibilities that are associated with something that does delight me. And so that makes even those tasks that might not be on the top of your list, they're still in service to the overall decision that I've made. Parenting my daughter delights me. So, whatever that entails, I'm here for. Living on a small flower farm delights me. So, if that means pulling weeds or harvesting flowers or watering or whatever I'm doing, those are all in line. And it's a question that I'm asking myself multiple times a day and often seasonally about the things that I may have done previously, but they no longer delight me.
Yeah. You know, it really is something that when you said it out loud, you questioned yourself because when I heard it, I thought the same thing. And a friend was also watching that same summit that we were at who texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, listen to that. Doesn't that sound wonderful?" And in a way, it is so inspirational. And in another way, it feels like our gosh darn right to be able to just show up for those things that delight us. But so often we save those things that delight us for later, right? When the work is done, when we have time. And this is a podcast on reading and writing. So it is something that is not necessarily a I must do personal reading and writing to live, right? It is a want. It is something that we want to cultivate with a whole lot of rationale behind it. But very often it can be pushed aside when the dishes have to be done, or the work has to get done, or the kids need to be driven somewhere. And so I just love your whole frame of looking at your life through that lens, knowing that not all of the pieces will be delightful, but looking with that lens of intention of
Mhm.
saying yes to the things that just make us happy and feel good. Oh, I want more of it. I know listeners want more of it. And so I'm so glad you're here to talk about it because it feels good to listen to someone say, "This is what I'm here for," and it's fantastic.
It really is, and it's working. And I didn't just, outsource all of my chores or laundry, or I don't have staff that are doing these things for me. But, in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he references doing these things, these implementing these new habits are a vote for the person that you're becoming.
Mm,
And that's how this feels. So, setting an intention of delight and having that wash over everything in my day, it helps me make time for the things that bring delight so that I'm showing up as the woman I want to be for the dishes, for the
Right.
carpooling, for the driving to soccer, going to the grocery store, all of those things. And there's something really supernatural about taking an intentional amount of time for yourself
Mhm.
and reading and writing and doing these beautiful feminine practices that really have you in tune with your heart,
Yeah.
that in some way multiply the time on the other side of that practice, because you are in a better place. You feel better about yourself. You are energized. You are not thinking about, are you kidding? Do you people know how to do anything by yourself? Must I just cleaned this kitchen and now you're hungry? Oh my word, in summer, that's like there's no break when
Yeah.
they're usually gone. So there can be opportunities to get kind of spun by these requests, and they can feel like demands coming at us. And I used to think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I used to think that my time was only available if there was time left over at
Mhm.
the end of the day. And we already know that that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so I did a couple of things. One thing that I did very, very intentionally was I committed to a morning routine. It does happen to fit my personality and my body rhythms. I do enjoy the morning and I do enjoy going to bed early. So, and my daughter does not like to go to bed, as she doesn't like being the only one going to bed. So it's fine. We go to bed at 8:30 in this house, and I get up at 4:45,
It's
and
my time
I
too.
oh, it's so good. And I read and I journal and I pray and I meditate, and I feel like I have 2 days every day. And then by the time I wake her up, I am the very best version of myself,
Yeah.
because I'm so plugged in and connected to myself and to the divine that I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I did was I committed to a concept of, instead of giving from, we hear you can't give from an empty cup.
Mhm.
And I heard this, I wish I could remember the person that said it, but it was on a podcast several years ago. And he said, instead of giving from your cup, you should give from your saucer. So you fill your cup up. When it overflows, you give from your saucer. When your saucer is empty, that's when you fill your cup again until it overflows. And then you give from your saucer. So instead of waiting until you're completely depleted and then you're not happy, you're angry, and now you are really reacting rather than responding to, I just want to get away and read a book, for God's sake, like it's ridiculous.
They have said
Like,
that this past week.
right. I've said it so many. I mean, I just thought, read a book, whatever. Like, who has time for that? I fall asleep. So it wasn't something that I've been doing for a long time. It was just something that I decided
Yeah.
was going to be in service. And again, it was during the pandemic. And I found myself only, it felt like all I did was cook and do dishes and
Yeah.
laundry, because the people in this house never left and they ate and wore so many clothes. And I just thought, I am losing myself and I'm not available for that.
Yeah.
So that's when I implemented these things. But I love the concept of giving from our saucer instead of our cup.
Mhm. I had not heard that before. I'd heard things along those lines where I understood, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, so I knew the cup must be filled first and somehow overflow, but I can instantly see and grasp that analogy and really understand why it is so important for us to build these kinds of practices, whether you're doing it in the morning or at another time at night. Maybe they don't want to get up at 4:45 like we do, but there are spaces, and those spaces make us better for ourselves and for everybody else, right? And it's summer, and even though we all have different goals, different ideas of what we want our summer to look like, most everybody I talk to talks about the summer as being the time where they want to feel good, where they want to
Mhm.
relax, they want to play more, they want to laugh. Kids are home from school, they want to make the most of it. And it can be so easy to go the opposite way and forget yourself to make that season the best for those around you. But this is such a good reminder that we have to pour our cup first until it spills over. Oh, you're going to have another post-it note on my wall now next to the I am only available for what delights me.
It's true, and, these concepts, they sound audacious, they're just unfamiliar,
Yeah.
and it's awkward until it's elegant,
Yeah.
but just keep at it because you're so worth it, and everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. That is just how this supernatural math works out. Your time is multiplied. Everybody wins when you take care of yourself. And it's so against the conditioning and what our culture says that you need to do all of these things. And then, I don't know, something will happen. I don't even know because you never get done
You
doing
never
all the
get there.
things. So we don't even know what it is. But freedom is a decision away.
Yeah.
And we can decide what we want the summer to look like, and we can be intentional, but it does take intention.
Mhm.
My daughter is 10. We set our summer intentions of what do we want to do this summer and how do we want to feel
Yeah.
this summer so that we can put those things together. And that way, if we aren't able to go to the beach or something that might be on the do list, we can easily implement something that gives us the feeling that we were wanting, that we thought is not only available at the beach. We can actually experience that right now.
That's the game changer when you can figure that out. That's been the game changer for me. Less focus on what I think the outcome is going to bring because I can actually recreate that feeling right now somehow.
Mhm.
And and just understanding that really is a game changer. So if listeners, if you take away anything from this episode, and I know you'll take a lot, I think what you've talked about until now about filling your own cup so it spills over, that freedom is a choice and that you can actually choose the way you want to feel no matter what the outcome is. That is the way to have the rest of a perfect summer setup for sure. But we're not done. We're going to keep talking.
Perfect.
So tell me what summer looks like for you on the flower farm and in your work.
Summer. I grew up in California and I always wanted to live in Massachusetts my whole entire life. And that whole time, people, and I would say this, and people thought I was crazy because I lived in California. They're like, oh, are you ready for winter and snow? And I said, yes, yes, I am. And I mentally geared up for winter and snow and have a beautiful, healthy coat addiction to support that. And it's so fabulous. Nobody ever said one thing about summer. No mention of humidity, no mention of mosquitoes, none of it. So, summer has been a different experience for me,
Mhm.
but I am finding delight in the rhythms of the farm. So, when we first moved here, I was with my ex-husband, and he planted many beautiful things and gardens and flowers for florists. cut flowers for florist and all of these gardens. And when he left and I desired to stay on the farm, on the property, I am only one person. So I decided to choose two things that I love, which are peonies and dahlias, and that's all I grow. So the beginning of summer, the end of spring into the beginning of summer is all about peonies. And then summer proper is about tending to the dahlias, and they start to produce blooms in early September, late August, early September. So there is some maintenance that happens in the summer, but it's far less than what the property used to require. And that delights me. It delights me that if it is a very warm, humid day, that I don't feel like I must be outside. So I've been able to add a lot of margin into my personal schedule. And by intentionally choosing two flowers that I love and that my clients love, and by doing less better, I'm so
Mhm.
much more successful, because when a florist reaches out and says, "Oh, I have a wedding in July or August and I'm looking for this," I say, "Oh, that sounds amazing." I was a wedding planner, so I feel you. I did that for 30 years. But I say, "Oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. I grow peonies and dahlias."
Mhm.
And that's it. And I worried, is that going to be enough?
Y
Am I going to be enough? All those things that come to mind. But what has happened with the peonies, they're so beautiful, they're so easy, they have a very short season, and everybody loves them, and they're incredibly predictable. The dahlias require a lot of attention and a lot of time, and they are not hardy enough to winter over in the ground. So I pull them out at the end of fall and store them and, hope that they're going to survive. And 2 seasons ago, I was introduced to a new way of storing them, which is so easy. Again, this beautiful opportunity to let it be easy. And the success rate is ridiculous. It's 99.8% success rate, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
So I pulled out 211 plants last fall,
Oh.
and this late spring, we planted 710 tubers.
Oh!
Yes, because you divide them after you take them out of winter storage. So now by doing less better, I've
Yes,
expanded my output, but without adding more flowers or more months to my work schedule.
right.
I have this new appreciation for compound interest. I finally get that now. And when we pull 700 plants out at the end of the season, I mean, next year we could have 2,000. I mean, it's crazy and fun and fabulous. And it just, by making a commitment and an intention to, I don't want to have to be outside when I don't want to be outside, but I still want to do this and do what I love and do it well. And the universe completely surprised and delighted me.
And we'll talk about where listeners can find you online later, but, oh, I love looking at the pictures. They are
Thank you.
beautiful. They're so beautiful. I do not have a green thumb, Wendy. Oh, maybe I'll develop one later on, but I so admire people who can do that, and I
Mhm.
love looking at the pictures of them because they are just gorgeous.
Thank you.
Do you know the picture book, Saving Delicia?
No.
You need to get it. I'm
Yes,
going to tell you a
please.
couple of books that I think you need to get today because we're going to do some book matchmaking, but it's fairly new. It's called Saving Delicia, and it's by Laura Gell, Gehl, who has just many beautiful books out there for young readers. But this book is about the Delicia plant, the Delicia tree, which isn't actually real, but it is this beautiful, imaginary, um, flowering plant. And unfortunately, all the Delicia trees are kind of dying out because they don't have the right soil conditions. And so the book is about the Global Seed Project and how to keep those seeds safe and store them so that later they can multiply. So as you were talking, that of course was the first book that came to mind. And it's so beautifully illustrated that I think you would love it.
I'm sure of it. I am obsessed with picture books.
Perfect.
I as I was waiting, my daughter is 10 and I am 56. I'm a very old mother. We adopted her from China and we were in the queue. I waited 24 years,
Wow.
24 Mother's Days between when I wanted to be a mom and when someone finally lived there. But for about 7 years during that time of waiting, I did a kids' story hour at a coffee shop in the town that I lived in. And there was a used bookstore about a block away, and they would let me shop for books and read them at the story hour, and then moms would go back and buy them. But I collected so many books in anticipation of this human that was going to one day live in my house. So I am always happy to add to that library. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. I think my prediction is going to be right, and you are going to love it.
I'm
It
certain.
love it. What does summer reading and writing look like for you? And we know you're a
Hmm,
morning person, and
I
we
am.
love that morning routine. Do you have particular genres you like to read in the summer, or certain books that make you feel a certain way, or what does that look like for you?
Well, it's such a great question. I right now am feeling very personal growth oriented. My whole life is a dream. My beautiful barn, my dreamy barn life. I really like I'm a show. I need someone to follow me around with a movie camera
I
and
agree.
document all of this because I wanted it for such a long time also, and I just celebrate every single second that I'm here. So for me, I don't necessarily feel a desire to read to transport me to some dreamy place because that's
You're
where I
it.
live. So in this season, I am really pouring myself into entrepreneurial books and personal development and how those things are melding together. And so I am also in the process of promoting some events that I do that are in France. I lead culinary centric trips for solo female travelers. And in this invitation process, which some people call marketing, I am wanting to really do this in a way that feels in alignment for me, that feels invitational, that doesn't feel yucky or salesy or bro marketing.
Yep.
Ugh, it's just not, that does not delight me, and I am not available for that. So I am reading a book by a woman named Linka Lutanza, and it is called Energetic Sales and Marketing. And she's talking about having a morning routine, and as a part of that, setting an intention of the woman that you are becoming and the client that you are calling in for your business, who is in the yes mode of her life, who is fully committed to her expansion. And that is speaking my language, and I feel very inspired and connected to that work, to those meditations. And I believe that the people that are being drawn to me are being drawn energetically because it's a match
Mhm.
and it feels easy,
Yeah.
which again, it's wacky, but I'm not going to question it. I'm
No.
going to love it and enjoy it.
Yo, yes, that book sounds wonderful. I will add that to my TBR stack to
Yes.
look up the books that I could read over the summer. I love how you said you're living that dream life, right? And
Mhm.
so the way that you're approaching your summer reading and writing and probably past summer is just by learning and growing and just seeing where it takes you. I do have one nonfiction book, not a personal development book, but I came up with 3 books that I thought
Fantastic.
I want to read. One of them's nonfiction, 2 are fiction, but I still think you're gonna want to read them.
Of course. I love reading. I'm going to read them in addition.
Yes, okay, good. Well, the first one, I'll start with the nonfiction because this one is pretty new, and I think you're going to love it because it has a flower focus, and it has an
Wow.
artistic and creative focus, and it has a really strong focus on connecting with others. And
Mm.
so this book has your name written all over it. The title is Flowers for the Things I Don't Know How to Say.
Oh,
And it's
that's
by Tucker
beautiful.
Nichols, right? Isn't that a beautiful title?
Yes.
Flowers for the Things I Don't Know How to Say by Tucker Nichols. And this
Mm.
actually started over the pandemic where Tucker started drawing these beautiful, very small, on really small square canvases, flowers,
Mm.
and would kind of snap a picture of them and physically send them off to people who needed them, who needed a lift
Mm.
during that time. And it, of course, became a larger and larger movement to now this book is a collection of those paintings of these gorgeous
Mm.
flowers. I think mainly watercolor, but a little bit, maybe some other media in there. And so on each page, there's this beautiful flower, and then there is an intention for that flower. But the
Mm.
intentions are things like flowers for when you find yourself eating a cinnamon bun in a hospital cafeteria,
Mm.
right? Or flowers for the last time you laughed so hard your belly hurt. Or flowers for when you had the most spectacular failure. So they
Mm.
are the flip side to the way that we typically use
Yeah.
and gift flowers and make it so meaningful, so personal,
Mm.
so emotional, I would say the
Mm.
book is, but it's also gorgeous and filled with flowers. And so I instantly thought this would be a good book to have somewhere in your
Yes.
pockets. I know you have a library there. I think
Yes.
this is a book that you would love.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited.
Welcome. Okay, let me give you the other 2, and then we'll talk
Yes.
a little bit about the retreat light aspect of our conversation. Have you read Super Bloom by Megan?
No.
No. Okay, and I know you'll love this one because you know Super Blooms. If you're from California, you know Super Blooms, but this is a book about personal transformation. The character is
Mm.
going through a very big transformation where she does ultimately say yes to herself. And it is about a spa worker. She's a massage therapist in an upscale spa in Vermont, so not too far away from you.
Right.
And life just isn't going the way she wants it to go. She's stuck. Her fiance has passed away. She does not enjoy her job. She's hard up for some money, to figure out what's coming next. And she's about one client away from getting fired.
Mm.
So her boss says, I'm giving you the most difficult client we have. And if she doesn't walk out of your room happy, then you're done. And so, of course, that meeting does not go very well. That massage client does not go very well. She's prepared to be fired. But instead, that client comes to her and says, I have a proposition for you. I know you're going to get fired if I tell your boss that I'm not happy, but you can help me. And it turns out that she is a famous novelist who
Ooh.
is doing research for her next novel, which happens to be set at a spa. And so they come up with this, this secret pact where she will provide some intel maybe a little bit of gossip to help fuel this writer's career that has stalled. So many wonderful things, so many interesting things, a couple unexpected things happen, but it's a huge novel of personal transformation and what happens when the character stops saying yes to everybody else and says yes to herself. And of
Love
course,
it.
super blooms. There's the beautiful super bloom analogy that I won't give away too much, but I think it has your name on it too.
Oh, I'm excited. Thank you.
So last one is a fiction book, but it's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit heavier, but I think you'll love it because it is about a character who is a historic floral bringer back to lifer. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
forgetting what the actual term is, but it's her job to travel to these historic sites and try
Mhm.
to bring back and recreate.
Preservationist.
Oh, yes, yes, and historian and all of the wonderful things. And it is a woman who also is trying to figure out what yes means in this particular phase of her life, which is for this character, middle age with some teenage daughters. And so she takes this job at a historic flower farm in the Hudson Valley, which again
Fun.
is pretty close to you.
Yes.
Um, and while she is there, she really does some soul searching. She tries to figure out what is next for her. There are a whole bunch of things that happen while she is there on that farm. Um, and they're not light. So I will say to everyone listening as well, if you know you have certain triggers about your reading life that you want to avoid, I won't tell you what they are because I can't give the story away, but it might be worth a quick little read online. But this woman says yes to herself, but then no to herself, and then yes to herself. And so it's that back and forth that I think we can all relate to of, oh, I'm doing
Yes.
it. No, I'm not. Oh, I'm doing it. No, I'm not. And so it was relatable in a lot of different ways, but in the end, again, no spoilers, but in the end, there's some beautiful transformations that happen, not just to her, but the people in her life as
It's never just one. The
right.
ripple effects of everything, of our yeses and our nos.
Yes. And I was so taken as someone without a green thumb, I was so taken by the descriptions of the
Mhm.
flowers and the setting, and Jane Delury really jumps into the history behind them and how to care for them because this is someone restoring it, and I thought, "I never knew I'd be as interested in this topic as I was." She does such a beautiful job of bringing it to life. So
Oh, that's
I think that could
amazing.
be another fiction one that perhaps you pick up.
Thank you. I love that. And just to clarify, I would not consider myself a green thumb either. I
Oh,
really, now my ex-husband was, and he he just decided what was happening. So I went along with it, and it's beautiful. And as a wedding planner wanting to have a wedding venue, it was great to have these gardens. And then when I became the only one here, I needed to make some changes. So really my green thumb is more an intended heartbeat. I These are the two flowers that I love and that I was willing to. He did not want to do dahlias because they're too much work, and I loved them, so the work was a delight for me. So they were things that I continue to learn about, but it's so beautiful to be a lifelong learner and to know what I want. And this historic property that I am just a trustee of, it was here long before I got here and will be here long after I'm gone. And it is a source of discovery and wonder every day. I
yeah.
have I feel a little bit like a Disney princess in the amount of woodland creatures that are visiting every night. I was looking out the window and there was a deer eating the grass next to the stream, and then some squirrels were playing with each other and ran past, and then all of these different types of birds, about 5 different types of birds, started bouncing around in my view, and then a bunny popped. I was
You
listening
got it
for
all.
music, it was so funny, and then a baby porcupine,
Oh,
so sweet, and then this is so not in my view, but in my what I realized the next morning, there had been a raccoon in the barn,
oh my gosh.
which I saw. I have these beautiful tart tables in there because I have dinner parties in the barn. It's not for animals. The raccoon is very off brand, but my chicken is now walking on the lawn. I can see her. It's like I'm just drawing it. But there were these little raccoon paw prints
Oh,
on the white sheet that covers the tables because he was looking to see if there was anything up there for him. And then a beaver is eating my winterberry.
you can't make
So
this
it is
up.
like, what is happening?
Oh, well, it keeps it
Start.
interesting, right? It
It
keeps it
is.
interesting.
It
So
does. It is. It's just it's a treasure chest here.
right. Oh, I love it. You've mentioned the barn, and I know
Yes.
from knowing a little bit about your work, you have events, you host
Yes.
retreats both at your location and you whisk people
Mhm.
to them as well. I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about that retreat like atmosphere, right? Because
Mhm.
it's again, when listeners go and find you and see the pictures, it's like an instant decompression. When you just
Mm,
look at them, they're so
thank
beautiful,
you.
so inviting. How do you do that? How do you create a
Mm.
space that feels that good and at the same time, how might we learn from that and do the same for us in our space with the summer that we have left?
What a beautiful question. Thank you. So I was a wedding planner for 30 years. And in transitioning from that career and into owning the bed and breakfast, which I just turned my house into a bed and breakfast when my husband left. And I desire to bring that same level of experience and attention to detail and expertise and care to my client, but on a day that they are not expecting wedding level perfection. So you still get the same me, but
Yeah.
the expectation level is different. So it is my desire to have everyone feel welcomed, anticipated, and celebrated. So to do that, I have my address in my Instagram bio because I really want people to come here. And I am always ready to receive them. I There's a house rule that there are 2 bottles of champagne chilling at all times. So whenever you come, what just you being here is cause for celebration. You don't have to be the girl in the big white dress. You are now just here. There's so there's so much to the pattern interrupt, and that is why stays at the bed and breakfast are a 2-night minimum, because I want you to be able to unplug.
Yeah.
I want you to have a stack of books that you are going to read or not read. It doesn't matter. I just want you to um, I love holding space for women that are holding space for themselves. And to do this, to create this atmosphere, to invite this kind of experience for one person at a time is such a joy to me. It's such a delight. It delights me to give to that person the way that they give so much to the people in their charge. And if someone is coming for a farm stay, they're welcome to be in the flower field with me if they want. They can collect eggs from the chicken house. They can be in the kitchen while I'm cooking if they want, or they can sit in the library in their robe with their stack of books while I'm bringing them tea until it's time to transition to champagne. And it's just whatever whatever she needs. And couples can come and men can come and men are great. And my client is a woman that is available for a pattern interrupt. And the transformation that comes on the other side of that has been unbelievable to witness. Just to women consistently say, I had no idea how much I actually needed this. They say it feels like an exhale to be in my home. They say, I don't know what happened, but as soon as I pulled in your driveway, I just started crying. And I say, I know, it happens to me too, because there's just a really beautiful energy here in this home. And I believe that I'm fostering that as well. And because of the intention that I've set for what I desire
Yeah.
my client to experience, that is exactly what they experience and more.
Yeah.
So I believe that you can create this for yourself. It takes intention and it takes a pattern interrupt. So even if reading is something that you want to do, but it feels elusive, take your book and get in your car and go down a street that you've never driven down and park and read there, or go to a park, or let the breeze hit your face while you're reading. Do something that feels like vacation, that feels like a pattern interrupt, that you're not reading while you're in the school pickup line or, you know, at soccer practice or whatever. Just go somewhere that feels special to you and pay attention to how that feels. And that's just, that's what I would suggest to start out as, and really get in the habit of checking in with yourself. So if you've just dropped someone off for soccer practice and you have 35 minutes, just shut your eyes and take a deep breath and ask, what would be the most pleasurable way to spend these next 30 minutes? And then listen for the answer. And it could be drive through that neighborhood that you love, where you're inspired by the way they do their landscaping, or get that book out of your handbag and go sit at the park, get out of your car, do not check your emails, whatever those things are, and just get in the habit of asking yourself and then trusting the answer that you hear and then doing it. And it feels very good. And it's that first yes can have a domino effect.
Well, it ties back so nicely to what you said in the beginning, or maybe it was the middle, which was, you set your intention for what you want to do and how you want to feel. But when something happens and you can't get to the beach or you can't do that thing, you can do something to recreate that experience. And that little pattern interrupt, it may not be a big one like going to your beautiful bed and breakfast for a retreat, although I hope for listeners, as many of you that can, do
Yes.
that. But something as simple as driving to a different location or reading outside or doing whatever it is you want to do can still create that feeling. And so creating that retreat like atmosphere, it isn't what I thought it was before, which was the place
Hmm.
and the things. That is certainly important, but it's also what you bring to it, which is why you get that magical energy there, because you're bringing it. Every day, every morning, you are bringing that energy to everybody who not just goes there, but the people who see your feed. and the people
Thank
that you
you.
talk to, like, I know people can't see us, but I know they can hear it
Mm,
in the feed coming through their podcast platform, and so I just so appreciate that message that it's accessible to us all, and you are literally living proof of it, which means we all can do that too.
yes. The life I'm living used to be the dream.
Yeah. Oh, where can people find you? I want you to tell us a little bit about how people could connect with you, meaning where online, but also how you're staying at the bed and breakfast, going international to those retreats. Tell us the things and the places where they could get more of you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So I'm primarily on Instagram, and that is Phineas Wright House. And I'm sure that will be linked in the show notes, so I don't have to spell it. I do know how to spell it, but no one's going to be jotting this down. Um, and that shows all the things that I'm up to, and the website as well, phineaswrighthouse.com. But we have a summer solstice white party every year. We do a Friendsgiving in the barn. And so these are just opportunity. I know it's so dreamy, right?
Yes.
These are just opportunities. And that is the face. Listeners, you cannot see the face, but you probably made the face. That's what I am talking about. This is
Yeah.
so dreamy. I can't even stand it. So I just love I have all these great ideas. And I thought, oh, just wish I had a place to do all these great things that are in my heart. And now I do. And so now I do. So you can definitely do a farm stay. You can come by yourself. You can bring a friend, and you can stay at the bed and breakfast. You can also host a retreat. So if you're a coach or a flower designer or some fabulous person that you want to host a retreat, you can do a 2-night farm stay with your retreat in the middle, and all of your attendees would stay at a local hotel. But the day before the retreat and the night of the retreat, after you've given to all of your people, you can come into the house, and then gives you the opportunity to receive, and I take care of you, because all of my clients, they're just my bride. And I just want to take care of you the way that I always did when I was a wedding planner. And then lastly, I do these fabulous culinary centric trips to France. So we primarily in 3 different locations. So I do Paris, Versailles. I also do a Paris Normandy trip, and then I do a trip in southwestern France. So that begins and ends in Bordeaux. But then we are in this small region called the Charente-Maritime, where my dear friend and chef moved. He retired and moved there about 5 years ago. And he's a very gifted chef. So I rent this beautiful chateau where we all stay, and Jeff is our private chef. And you can watch him in the kitchen and take cooking classes from him, or you can just sit by the pool and sip champagne and wait for him to tell us dinner is ready. And then we visit in all of these trips. We do very private, very exclusive excursions with entrepreneurs, with expats that have said yes to themselves, that are living their best lives in France now. And these trips are all very small. So they have 5 people. And so that way we do a private pastry class in Versailles and in Molly's apartment. We do a market and cooking class with Veronique in her apartment in Paris. We get to be pickers for the day at this small champagne producer that is run by a woman, and she's 10th generation. And it's just phenomenal. So these are all experiences that nobody else is having. And even if they're having one of them, they're not having all of them in these trips, but they're just beautiful. They're beautiful opportunities to have the pattern interrupt, as I mentioned, but also live life with local people that are living this life, that said yes to themselves, that we're not Veronique was born there, but everybody else is either Canadian or British or American and have said yes to themselves, followed their dream, and are now living this beautiful life in France. And my clients and me, like, we just want to be in that energy. Show me how that's done. How did you do it? And I just took a client to Normandy in May. They're going to buy a place there
Oh, wow.
because they loved it so much, and they met people that lived in the village and had the best time, and were already planning on putting their house on the market, but put it on the market the day we got home. And they kept a condo in Massachusetts and now are buying property in France.
Wow.
So
Wow.
something things happen.
Thank
If you're
you.
not interested in transformation, then please do not come on my trip because you will not like it.
Right. It's going to
But
happen.
if
Well,
you
I got that face multiple times as you were talking.
right, because it's
Gorgeous.
just dreamy.
Mhm.
It's so much goodness, and it really is this fabulous, and it is 100% available for you as well.
Oh my goodness. I'm so like I feel like I got goosebumps right now of yes, yes. This is why it is such a perfect title for your podcast. Say yes
Thank
to
you.
yourself. I hope that listeners will hop on over there to hear the stories of people who are doing exactly what you just talked about, that I know all of us probably got a little bit, at least a little bit envious of listening to. It's just, as I said, it is such, I don't even know the feeling that I would say to describe it, but to listen to you, and I get to see you, but they are just listening to you literally live that best life and talk about it and be so 100% sure that every single person listening can go in that direction too. Oh, it's just such a good feeling, Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe we're at work right now.
I
This
know.
is so fabulous.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Mm,
you. Again, I loved our conversation. I know people are going to be inspired on so many levels. I'm just so grateful you were here. Thank you.
mm. Thank you. You are a treasure. And if anyone coming over to listen to my podcast will get to hear you on it. That
Yeah.
was so fun. And I have loved this time. And honestly, I really appreciate the reminder that talking about what my experience is now does to my heart.
Yeah.
It reminds me because I used to think that I couldn't have what I wanted. And now I have it.
Yeah.
And I want more
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we can also want more. It's so good. Satisfied with what is and eager for more.
Yes. Oh, it's such a beautiful message. So beautiful. Thank you again. I loved it.
Thank you. I loved it back.
And listeners, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. And I will see you another next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. Learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing, if you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and it builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.